From a flightless simulator at Ferris Air to a momentous meeting in an alley to the complex mind of an architect to every far sector in space and to the brilliance of the central power battery on Oa. This is the podcast that covers the adventures of all of your favorite ring slingers. This is the Emerald Echo with your hosts, Adam and the Emerald Enthusiast.
Welcome to another episode of Emerald Echo, a Green Lantern podcast and vidcast. As always, I'm your host, Adam. And with me, as always, is my co-host, the Emerald Enthusiast himself, Donnie. Donnie, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, Lantern fans? It's the Emerald Enthusiast, and we're back for another round of analysis of Green Lantern, as well as Green Lantern War Journal.
Indeed. Last time was a triple dose, and this time's a double-double. I feel like I'm ordering a coffee every time we do one of these.
Yeah.
It just
Double,
depends.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. The donut is sold separately, apparently. Yeah, so that's what we're doing. We have two, sometimes we'll do all three, sometimes we'll do two. Just depends on when we can schedule a recording and which books are out. But, so that's why there's two this week as opposed to the three from last episode. I'd like to give you some news, but there is none in terms of, live action stuff. Yeah. Look, right now the focus is going to be on, Superman Legacy starting filming, at which point, at some point, we'll probably get a look at Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. And when we do get that first look, of course, Donnie and I will discuss it and share our thoughts on it. I
just remembered one piece of news.
Oh, okay.
You can now get on the McFarlane's website, McFarlane Toys, the glow-in-the-dark version of Parallax.
Yeah, I saw the preview image for that the other day, and I forgot to tweet at you, but I was going to make a comment of something to the effect of, "I'm sure Donnie will be getting this," and evidently I was right.
I will be getting it. It's an Amazon exclusive, though. I think it's Amazon. It's an exclusive to some store, so I may wait and kind of pick one off when the the interest dies down just a little bit to get a good deal on it. So
yeah, sounds good. But I have no doubt that you'll get your hands on that.
Oh, I've got to have it. I mean, it's a limited edition Green Lantern figure. Come on now.
Right. So who are we kidding here? This is serious stuff. So there's that. But again, on the live action front, as soon as we have our first look at Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, we will discuss it. I'm intrigued, actually, knowing that, or by the seeming hints that we talked about last episode, it seems like we're going to get a physical costume this time around. So that's intriguing, as opposed to the CGI pajamas. So that'll be nice, and it'll be fun to dissect that, and hopefully Nathan Fillion's haircut or / wig, whatever they choose to go. James Gunn, from what I've read on threads, is very much looking forward to giving his friend Nathan Fillion that haircut. So I think that's a big plus for James Gunn. So I wouldn't be surprised if Nathan Fillion actually cuts his hair like that, as opposed to using a wig of some sort, which would be funny when he goes back to filming his, show, The Rookie or whatever it is.
Yeah.
If he, how are they going to explain that haircut?
Well, he could always slick it back or use a wig on that show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that would be funny. But again, as we have details regarding that, or any more details regarding Lanterns, the show that is, according to James Gunn, moving along, they're just not ready to share anything yet. So.
And by the way, I know this is not a Marvel Masterworks podcast, but I have to point out my co-host shirt. That is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, Venom. I kind of wore it.
Yeah.
I kind of wore it partly for you, Donnie, but actually, in truth, it's because I couldn't find my Green Lantern long sleeve hoodie. But it's somewhere upstairs.
It's beautiful, man.
I was like, I could dig through my clothes and find that Green Lantern shirt, but I'm too lazy right now, so I'll just wear Venom instead. So
if you're listening on another platform, go to YouTube to make sure you can see that shirt. It's awesome.
Shirt. Yeah, You know, maybe Venom will be my future stripper name, which will never happen, but because nobody wants to see that. But anyway,
I was gonna say I like you, but not that much.
yeah,
That's not
I
a show
don't
I
think
want to come to see.
nobody wants to see that. Exactly. Let's keep it away. Just, you know, that's only reserved for the multiverse wives on, you know, depending on what Earth I'm on that any given week. But yeah, so there's no news. So we're gonna get right to our first review of the. Aside from the McFarlane toy, which Donnie has you covered on those, and so we'll get right into the books. And first up with Green Lantern #7, correct, Donnie?
Yeah, we're going to talk about Green Lantern #7 and then Green Lantern War Journal #5.
So what's happening? Where are we with Green Lantern #7? Give us a little bit of a lay of the land of what's going on.
Well, remember we finished with issue #6 with the big reveal that Hal Jordan had actually not been talking to Kilowog all this time on Earth. It was actually a construct. And we saw him reveal this to Razor, who made his first appearance in the main continuity. And now we get Green Lantern #7, and we finally get the backstory as to how Hal ended up here on Earth before Green Lantern #1. And we see here that the United Planets have taken over Oa, and it says that they put 2814, Sector 2814, under quarantine due to the Dark Crisis event that they obviously have heard about.
Yeah, so basically Earth is screwed, at least in terms of potential Green Lantern protection. According to the United Planets, they're like, yeah, these Earthlings. There's always a crisis with these people, and we're just going to stay away.
Yes, and so you see, the first thing that they do is they say we're going to put Earth under quarantine and reassign all the human Green Lanterns to different sectors or different duties.
Mm-hmm.
Because of Dark Crisis. So that's the catalyst. Or as DC named it, Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. Specifically on Elm Street with the Jedi holding the Goblet of Fire to protect Monster Island from the Walking Dead.
And then Winter's End or Last Christmas or whatever that,
exactly.
whatever that event was called.
Exactly.
That I still don't remember.
Exactly. In Winter's End, at one more day.
Yeah. And then,
with the King in Black.
There is an actual Christmas, by the way, Christmas miniseries that DC released over the holidays that you and I will do for next Christmas.
Yes, I've heard that was great.
It was really good.
I had a friend of mine who read that. Yeah,
it was excellent. But we'll do that next Christmas. That'll be our Christmas episode of the Christmas to come. And it's January, and I'm already talking about next Christmas. But anyway, here it is.
Hey, it is always acceptable to think about Christmas. So
it is what it is.
So we also get just a little bit a quick recap of the events that ended the Jeff Thorne run. Remember, the Central Power Battery was destroyed, and John, with his ascended powers, rebuilt it as the beacon.
Right. Yes. I also liked when they were, because this obviously, as Donnie was saying, it shows you the events of what happened to Kilowog. So it takes place some time ago, and so we have all the Lanterns assembling and meeting with the United Planet figureheads, and
including Faros.
Yes, so we get to see Guy Gardner, we get to see John Stewart, we get to see Hal, of course, and then Kyle Rayner. We get to see, and it was nice to see Kyle again.
Yeah. And Jessica, Joe, and Simon were all there.
Yes, the whole crew. Yeah. It was really nice to see them all again. It's been a while. And what really stood out to me is as they were divulging their message of okay, Earth is Sector 2814 is in quarantine. Guy is already getting up in arms and pissed off and voicing his displeasure. And he sounded like he was getting as frustrated as like a high schooler, at a school assembly. Like he didn't like what he was hearing. He didn't want to be there. You name
Yes.
it. He was going through the range of
Yes,
emotion.
very very petulant, but
Yeah,
things took a humorous turn because
yeah,
the United Planet said, they were giving them their reassignments,
yeah.
and he was like, "You can take your reassignments and just shove them up here." And they were like, "Oh, you want me to go after Lobo? Oh, okay, I'm in then."
Yeah. He changed his tune real quick, which was really funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then they reassign Kilowog and Hal to be the guardians of Theros on his journey to Korrigar to try and convince Sinestro and to have Korrigar join the United Planets.
Right.
And a couple of interesting things happen in this exchange to me between Kilowog and Hal. One of which is, Hal's so disillusioned by this quarantine of Earth that he's like, what's the point? Like, if I can't even protect my home, why am I even doing this? And Kilowog is like, because I want you to stay. Like, I'm asking you to stay. But also, he's like, I don't even know where they send Kyle, Jessica, and Simon, and that's pretty much been the status quo for those three for quite some time. We have no idea where they are, what they're doing, and so it was kind of like art imitating the actual scenario with those characters. Hopefully that changes soon, but I found that interesting.
It will definitely, at least in one sense, change with Green Lantern #8 because we're getting a Kyle Rayner backstory written by Ron Mars. Excuse me, not a backstory,
a secondary story.
Yeah, a secondary story. Yes, so a backup is what I meant to say.
Yeah. I got you. I understood what you meant, but yeah.
By the way, during that conversation with Kilowog, I really like the fact that he referred to Earth as a mud patch.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, you can go back to that mud patch.
Yeah, we're not very highly regarded in the DC cosmos. Like, they don't think much of us. And you know what? With the way actual humans behave, sometimes I don't blame them.
Yeah, it's very understandable.
But another interesting point was Hal was kind of doing I think he was kind of doing the Han Solo thing where he's like, I have a bad feeling about this,
Yeah.
Which was funny because there's a lot of people that compare Hal Jordan to a Han Solo type.
Mm-hmm. And Captain Kirk.
Yeah, even though Hal came before both of those characters, I want to say, well, at least Han for sure.
Oh, definitely Han. Hal was 1959. When did Captain Kirk?
Yeah, he's before Kirk because the Star Trek series was the 66.
Okay.
So he's before Kirk and Han. So so they are.
And we did have a couple Green Lantern Star Trek crossovers that I thought those were excellent.
Those were. We should actually review those at some point.
Sure.
But yeah, so I like that aspect of. Like, it was very much a Han Solo kind of esque comment that it's like, and you know what? Ultimately, he was proven right because from that conversation on, the proverbial crap hits the fan, as they would say, because then we get to Korrigar and we're having the conversation, and. It's what I found striking about that whole thing was how quickly Sinestro can get under Hal's skin.
Exactly.
Like Hal has, when he's around Sinestro, he has no composure, no patience. I don't know what other word you want to use, but it's just, and the worst part is Sinestro knows that, and even though he's playing off all innocent. He's pushing buttons, at one point, what does he call him? Your security guard? Something dismissive.
Yeah, and he called him boy too.
Yeah, which I'm sure, which It was never going to go over well.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's just that dynamic of how easily Sinestro is able to affect Hal in that way was quite impressive. I thought.
However, I will say that the way that this unfolded, I'm not sure Sinestro was calling the shots there. Now, granted, what happens is that the room that the building, the room that Tharos and Hal, at least temporarily, Kilowog and Sinestro are meeting in, is attacked by 3 members of the Sinestro Corps.
Mm-hmm.
But Sinestro, at least seemingly, is surprised by this. Now, of course, he's not above, feigning innocence and not actually being innocent. But the way that he reacted didn't seem like he knew this attack was coming.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. And then what you get is, I think Hal goes after Theros to protect him.
Mm-hmm. He gets Theros back on the ship to get him off of Koragar.
And then, meanwhile, Kilowog goes after the attackers and
fights them 3-on-1.
It's a 3-on-1 assault.
Mm-hmm.
But I gotta give credit where credit is due, because at this point, everybody who's read up until this juncture knows what's about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But man, did Kilowog ever go out like a badass and heroically. And I think it was perfectly written by Jeremy Adams in terms of the tone and tenor of Kilowog. Mm-hmm. But also the way it was drawn, when he's basically telling them to come at him, like it looks so strong and heroic the way he presents that, and so I thought it was handled fantastically.
Yeah, he went down in a literal blaze of glory.
Yeah, which is
with a massive fight between his will constructs and the 3 constructs, the 3 Sinestro Corps members making constructs out of the fear energy. It was just a magnificent looking fight that ended with, at least temporarily, Kilowog on his knees being pierced by all these sharp constructs, and they told him stay down. And of course, he gets up and just breaks all the constructs and is like, I don't know how to stay down, Boozer.
Yeah, and then unfortunately, Hal was not able to get there in time to make any impact or to help Kilowog out. So, unfortunately, Kilowog met his ultimate end.
Well, it seemed like he and the Sinestro Corps members impacted with the central power battery of the Sinestro Corps.
Yeah, and then Hal was basically, was taken out by the blast, or pushed away by the blast. So there was nothing he could have done at that point. But again, it was an action-packed set of scenes and stunning imagery, and again, if you want to see, I just like the way that in his final moments, Kilowog was still, they still put him over to quote a wrestling term. And so I like that. And then we also get, because at the end of the issue we see,
or the end of this part of the issue
of the story, yeah,
because we have the backup as well,
right? Yeah, at the end of this part of the story, it's revealed that Hal is recounting this story to Razor, and then Razor tells Hal of problems that he's facing, which are, tell us, Donnie, what those are.
Well, it seems that the Blue Lantern central power battery has also been destroyed.
Yeah, so things are not going well for various core at this point.
So
Um,
now, when I texted you about a week ago and said, there's something I want to tell you,
yeah, what was
this is it
that?
now. After all this time of me predicting Kilowog's the one who died on Korugar, now I'm not sure he's dead.
Oh, oh, all right.
There's
Explain.
the old rule that if you don't see a body, that the character's not dead until you do.
Okay.
I don't know that he's dead. We may get something happening like Kilowog being infected by fear energy
Ah,
or losing his memory or something like that in the battle, but that he's not actually dead.
interesting. I hope you're right on this one, because I would hate it to see Kilowog gone for good. Not that I'd be bitter at Jeremy Adams because I think it was done in a good way. Unlike when they took Alfred Pennyworth off the board in the Batman books, which still pisses me off. Bring back Alfred. Um, but
Yeah, let's hashtag about that some night like 300 times.
yeah, 45,000 times and say, look, it's trending. It's a global phenomenon. Nonsense. But anyway, yeah, so I hope you're right about that because I'd like to see Kilowog come back. And listen, to continue the wrestling verbiage, how many times did they kill The Undertaker? Only to have him come back and, and do his shtick again. So, why not? I hope you're right. Like I said.
Yeah.
I
Just seeing the way it unfolded, I was like, I'm like, it could be that we don't see Kilowog for a little while, and then it's revealed that somehow he survived.
Yeah, imagine if he's being brainwashed, and then
Sure.
it's like at first he's the villain, but then
Yeah.
they turn him back.
Right, and maybe Hal and some of the Earth Lanterns have to go after him and try to confront him.
Yeah. That'd be really
would
cool.
Be a very interesting turn of events.
Yeah, that'd be really cool, and yeah. So I hope you're right on that. We'll see. But you're right. There was no body, and like even if they didn't want to get so graphic as to show bits of Kilowog, I mean, nobody held a funeral for this guy. Hello, speaking of the Undertaker and Paul Bearer and the like, nobody held a funeral for this guy.
Yeah. And that's why Hal blames himself, is because Hal wasn't in the room when Kilowog was attacked. And when you remember at the end of issue 6, he said, "It's all my fault."
Yeah, because he got himself dismissed because
he's feeling that grief now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't know what happened to Kilowog's body, or for that matter, the other 3 Sinestro Corps members.
Right. So you could be very well onto something there. But yeah, I was just blown away by this story. Again, I think it had the tension that I like to see between Sinestro and Hal. And it had the emotional impact because you get to actually see Kilowog, quote unquote, die. But then again, it was just when it hit you with the action and the fighting, it was spectacular.
Well, I mean, we've been building up to this for 6 months, so
yeah. So the build
Jeremy Adams obviously knew that he had to deliver, and he did.
Yeah, the payoff for this was good. So yeah, I was again. We're 7 issues into this run, and Jeremy Adams is, in my book, 7 for 7. But having read his Flash run, I'm not one bit surprised.
So should we briefly touch on the backup story here?
Sure, yeah, and then we'll do our reading, yeah.
So this is the final chapter of this backup story that will lead to Sinister Sons. And we see that Nagath, having grounded Korg here, orders the group that he's in to tear apart Korg's ship. And Korg comes with receipts. He's able to show this hologram that Nagath has actually been profiting more than anybody else in the group. which leads to a standoff between Korg and the Gaff. And Korg, despite the fact that Nagaff is about 5 times his size, is able to beat Nagaff in a showdown. And you see him at the end say, "It looks like we have our own core now." And he and the other kids here are now part of this little Sinister Sons Sinestro Corps, or whatever they're going to call it.
I'm going to call it the Kitty Corps. That's what I'm going to call it.
Well, he makes the little S logo.
Yeah.
And and he describes himself at the end of this. Importantly, he doesn't go by Korg anymore. He's like, it's Simpson.
Yeah, which goes back to the tease we got in one of the recent Green Lantern issues, right? So
yes.
I'm very intrigued by the character and what Sinister Sons is going to end up being, because obviously we're going to have Zod's kid in there too, factoring in somehow. So, I mean, it's a real who's who of, kids that should probably be in permanent detention or the Phantom Zone.
I really like the big moment too when he hit him with the Fear Fist.
Yeah,
the word, but it was frack.
Yeah. That was very well done. So I like the story. I like the character. I'm very intrigued. I mean, I still can't wait to see that eventual, meeting between Sinestro and him. At this point, I mean, that'll be fascinating. My only sort of drawback or negative with these back issues is the art style. It's not my personal favorite.
Right. Yeah, and I've said that as well. That it's. Yeah, in the backup story. But again, you and I can both see that and say, we know we're not the target audience specifically for this comic or that
story. But again,
anyway.
I'm also not an artist, so me criticizing somebody that can draw is kind of counterproductive. It's just not my preferred style of art, if anything.
But you and I can still pick things out that we like about the story.
Absolutely.
And not go and write 5, pages on Reddit about how DC is disrespecting all their fans.
Yeah, because we are adults and behave. We try to behave like adults. Emphasize on try most of the time. But I enjoyed it, and I'll check out. We'll check out. The new book when it comes, because it's got a little bit of Superman flavor, a little bit of Green Lantern flavor. So why not?
I'm down for that.
So stay tuned for that. But with that being said, let's rate Green Lantern number 7 as a whole. So remember, Donnie, it's out of 5 lantern rings for story and 5 lantern rings for art.
Yeah. So story, I'm going to give a 5. I think Jeremy Adams really delivered. I'm going to say a 4 on the art this time, just because there were a couple of close-up shots that I didn't think were perfect. Could have been better. There was one of Kyle and one of Sinestro, the close-up images that I thought could have used a little bit more work.
Yeah, I can see where you're going with that. So I'll echo your sentiments similarly with the story. It's a 5, and for the art, which was still quite fantastic, I'll give it a 4.5. For me.
Yeah. So we're pretty close on how we see that.
Right. Yeah. So again, Green Lantern is Green Lantern proper is 7 for 7. So I hope that keeps up. But and I have no doubt it will. Like I said, knowing Jeremy Adams and how many issues he just delivered on the Flash. So, but. With that being said, we're going to take a quick break, and then on the other side, we'll talk about War Journal and the adventures of John Stewart. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Don't go anywhere.
What's up, everyone? It's the Emerald Enthusiast. For all of your multiverse viewing and listening needs, check out our shows, which include Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, Power Rangers, the Marvel Universe, and the DC Universe, including the Emerald Echo podcast. You can check us out on Podbean, and remember to subscribe right here on YouTube. That's the Multiverse Musings Podcast Network. from the first podcast to the last.
And we're back.
Indeed we are, and it's time to talk about Jon Stewart's adventures. So, Donnie, take it away. Where are we with this issue of War Journal?
Well, this is Green Lantern War Journal number 5, a story called Shining Light. And remember, Jon is now back to, at the end of the previous issue, Jon is now back to being a Green Lantern because he put on Varen's old ring. And instead of being, number 1, his ascended self, and number 2, infected by the Radiant Dead infection, now he's once again Green Lantern.
Mm.
Now, we don't know what he's like when he takes the ring off, but I guess we'll get answers eventually.
I would hope so.
Yes. So Jon is hovering above Earth, saying that his ring remembers Varen. It remembers the user of the tool before him. And now Jon is using this to track the Radiant Dead.
Right. And he's very horrified by all the things that the ring shows him.
I really like that splash page with all of those little
that
events
was
happening.
that was really cool, and the way he was hovering over Earth was pretty cool. It was very well drawn, and I gotta say, every time I see Jon's new suit, man, that looks sharp. That's
well, I've got if Philip Kennedy Johnson or Montes.
He's talking about a figure, folks. Here we go.
No, believe it or not, I actually have something to say about this issue at the very end.
Okay, all right. I thought you were going to say that you wanted a figure of this version of Jon.
Well, I do, but I've already said that. So.
All right, so I'm right. I'm partially right.
Give me like a 4-pack with
wait a minute. Very hard.
Give me a 4-pack with like the Emerald Knight and
just a Jon Stewart 4-pack. That's
his various outfits.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Yeah, I dig that. Yeah, that's cool.
The scene quickly shifts back to Metropolis, and we see Jon talking with Steel, who lets him know that his mom is awake, but she's hallucinating. And there's one panel that I have to say in this exchange, it is so painfully realistic.
Absolutely.
You can see Jon's eyes brimming with tears as he's being told this, that she's awake, but she's hallucinating.
Right. And then the subsequent pages was where I got emotional actually reading it, because again, it's all credit where credit is due to Philip Kennedy Johnson, but the way he writes that interaction between Jon and his mother, and her struggling with her memories, and at one point thinking that Jon is his father.
Yes.
Then the next moment realizing that it's Jon, but where Jon has to tell him that my sister, your daughter, is gone, is deceased.
Yeah.
And then she just loses it.
And you can see when she realizes, in that interaction, she thinks Jon is his dad.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden she realizes, hey, this isn't our house. The way that was drawn was amazing.
Right,
the terror in her eyes. And I'm one of these people who's lived long enough to have some family members go through similar things. And seeing that drawn, it's the kind of thing that shakes your soul. Montos did a great job at conveying that here.
Right. And like I said, when Philip Kennedy Johnson was on the show with us, having a grandmother who struggled with dementia while she was alive in her later years, that's always going to be, especially when it's done that authentically, it's always going to be hard to read and see and get through. That was a hard sequence for me to power through. But again, it's just if you're gonna tackle issues like this, you have to do them
authentically. Yes.
This.
Yes.
Because anything else would be, I think, disrespectful
to the situation. Yeah.
To real people going through this. Like, so it's like, I don't want them to suddenly say, look, there's a magical cure for John's mother, that Bruce Wayne or whatever somehow funded research for a magical cure for this. I don't want that. I mean, as much as this is fiction, and hey, it's nice if everybody gets a happy ending. When you're dealing with certain things, that happy ending isn't there. It's not part of the equation. John can have a happy ending elsewhere.
Yes.
But it can't be because we've got a magical cure that only exists in the comic book realm. Yeah. It's like if Matt Murdock suddenly, hey, you can 100% see your blindness is gone. Who wants that?
Right, exactly. That's part of the character, and the makeup of this story is John dealing with this, and It seems like Philip Kennedy Johnson is going to ride this train to the end, and the emotion here is very authentic, though.
Yeah, for sure.
As troubling as some of this is, that really adds to the authenticity of this story.
Yeah.
So now, from the start of this story, John keeps saying a Green Lantern can do anything. And so he decides that the course of action is to utilize the part of himself. Remember, John Stewart, the master builder.
Right.
He utilizes that part of himself and uses his ring to create a version of Ellie.
Mm-hmm.
And we see later on that he actually creates other constructs that look like constructs. This is a full, living, breathing being that is a version of Ellie. This is more than just a construct. This is him imbuing this being with a part of himself. And in fact, I want to quote here exactly what she says when he asks her, "Do you know what you are?" And I'll have something to say about this, but I have to quote this. She says, "I'm your heart, your mind, your memories, and your will most of all. I'm a piece of you imbued with your power and your love for Shirley Stewart. And I'll die before I let anything happen to your mama." And I want to say, for the third time in my life, when I read that, I broke down in tears reading a Green Lantern comic. It was that good.
Yeah. Again, it's just, I think, see, this is where I'm okay with, using the fiction, the sci-fi of it all, and having John be able to do that. Like, I'm okay with that to sort of ease his mother's sort of pain, trauma, illness, or however you want to phrase it. But ultimately, it doesn't take away what's happening to her. Just for temporarily, it makes her feel better.
Right.
And then, if the time comes that eventually his mother is gone, I'm sure the construct will also, or the creation will, John will let the creation cease to be as well. But there's a difference between something like this and trying to take away a serious, legitimate mental issue that Philip Kennedy Johnson is trying to portray. So that's why it's different. Like, that's why I'm cool with one thing and not cool. Like, it's not as if John literally brought back his sister. Like, that's not what we're dealing with here.
He's trying to ease his mother's pain as well as protect her, because he can't be by her side all the time.
Yeah.
And but it's powerful. Also, maybe there's no happy ending with this part of the story, but it's powerful to read.
And also, on the fictional side of the equation, it's pretty cool to see how powerful John is in this scenario.
Yeah. And like I said, that really illustrated that part of his personality that is the builder. Remember, we saw him earlier in this series thinking about, building things from the inside out.
Yeah.
That's what he's done here. He built this being with parts of himself from the inside out to make an authentic living creature. Person.
And think about how, at its core, it's just an example of how much a son loves his mother and what a son will do for his mother.
Yeah.
That's an emotion that I think anybody can relate to. That the feeling that.
And she was beautifully drawn, by the way.
Yeah. That feeling of I'll do anything to make my mother happy. We can all relate to that. We don't need
especially a parent you love in pain.
Yeah,
we would do anything to stop it.
You don't need superpowers to relate to that. So, when I see people saying, "Well, you can't relate to superheroes like this because it's not always about the superficial superpower. It's things like this, or the meaning behind things like this."
So the scene quickly shifts to the Amazon rainforest, and John and Shepard, again, still searching for the Radiant Dead. And interesting to note here. So, again, it's just the two of them, and John says, I will take care of our rear, as in guarding the rear of the two of them. And John creates constructs of 3 former Dark Stars, Tomar 2, Baron Kolos, and, interestingly enough, Moraine. Remember, that's one of my theories, that the Radiant Dead, the Revenant Queen, is some version of Moraine.
Yeah.
So I'm like, is that a little foreshadowing here? So anyway, John and Shepard are attacked by construct ships, and this turns out to be Green Lanterns sent by the United Planets to bring John Stewart into custody. They're also looking for Varen.
Well, I got news for them.
Well, Varen showed up, just not the way that they would have liked.
Yeah.
And I really like, so when these construct ships show up and they attack John and Shepard, he and Shepard throw up this bubble, and John crosses his arms like this. And I was like, this is straight edge. Like,
yeah, okay. Or Wakanda Forever.
Wakanda Forever, yeah. But anyway, when the Green Lanterns show up, they are actually slaughtered by the person for whom they were looking. Varen is now, again, part of the Radiant Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And we see the Radiant Dead show up with the Revenant Queen this time.
And boy, do they look awesomely creepy.
Pops out of the ground with a karakakakoom. And there she is with the Radiant Dead. And there's a few Green Lanterns and I don't think all of the Green Lanterns from the United Planets were killed by that attack. I think a couple of them survived. But even so, John and Shepard are woefully outnumbered here.
Yeah, it's not looking like a fair fight at all. And given what happened to the United Planets representatives, maybe John's going to need some help from some other lanterns from 2814, perhaps. We'll have to wait and see, but I'll tell you what, John certainly looks a lot stronger than, just in general, than the United Planets Green Lanterns.
Yeah, well, they're obviously, again, they're not the most capable, qualified bunch, but it'll be interesting to see. And I think
they need more training at the Performance Center. That's right. Those guys.
I think we're going to get the identity of the Revenant Queen next issue, so I can't wait for that.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about this, before we eventually give it a score, is that I was under the assumption that this was only 6 issues, but apparently not.
I thought originally that it was supposed to be a limited series, but I thought it was 8 issues. I'll double check that.
No, because I think I saw something with Philip Kennedy Johnson promoting the next issue. It says the end of the first arc. So I found it interesting. It has,
Maybe it's sold well enough that they want to keep it going.
that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah.
So, because I thought 6 was the end, but and I'm happy that if that's the case, that it's not. And if they've extended this to, like, if you think of an arc as like 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's just going to do 3 more and then that'll be a second arc. Why wouldn't they just wrap it up in 8 total, right?
Right.
So I'm just looking. I'm trying to find the specific.
Well, I'm pulling up right here. There's a Green Lantern War Journal, at least number 8. There's a preview for number 8 here.
And does it say anything about final?
No, it does not.
Okay.
Oh, man, the variant covers, though. Whoo! Beautiful.
So it says here, just based off of Philip Kennedy Johnson's tweet, pre-orders are up. Final order cutoff for Green Lantern War Journal number 6, the finale of the first arc. So again, doesn't say how long we're going here, but I'm gonna say that I could probably assume that I'm gonna make the assumption. Then if I'm wrong, so be it. I think we could be getting 6 more here at the very least.
Well, I'm up for all, but again, it goes through at least issue number 8 because I'm pulling up the preview here. So.
Right. It just, to me, it doesn't make sense for them to say,
arc instead of end of the series.
Like, no, to do 6 and then to come back for just 2 more as a new arc, to me, it doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, an arc has to be more than 2. Otherwise, it's just a 2-parter. So that was a surprise, but a welcome one. So if this has another 4 to 6 issues in it, great. If it has more than that, even better.
But now I have to say what I wanted to say earlier.
Okay.
Of these 3 series so far, no disrespect to Tim Sheridan, the writer of Alan Scott, the Green Lantern. No disrespect to Jeremy Adams, but this is my favorite Green Lantern issue of those 3 series so far.
So single issue, you mean?
Single issue.
Okay.
That exchange between John and his mother and the construct of Ellie was some of the most powerful writing I've read in a long time in a comic book. And so this was my favorite issue so far of any of the 3 current runs. So magnificent art, magnificent writing. If I could give those both more than a 5, because that's the top of our scale, I would. It was just pretty close to perfect all around.
I gotta agree 100% with your overall sentiment. I think this is probably the best single issue Green Lantern comic I've read in years. And it's a 5 on both counts for me, both story and art as well. Again, single issue, it's probably my favorite. As a series so far, it's unfair to do because we still have to see how Alan Scott finishes. But just as a series right now, probably Green Lantern proper is my overall favorite, just because it's the Green Lantern that, as a fan, from when I started. I've come to expect that kind of storytelling. So it falls in the wheelhouse, right? And so, it's doing what I expect from a Green Lantern series. But again, single issue is got to give it to War Journal, and yeah, like I said, I don't know how many years, but it's the best issue in years. Maybe since like I liked. Well, I was 40-60 on the Morrison run. Who are we kidding? I really liked
Volume 6 with Jeff Thorne's run.
Jeff Thorne. I really liked Jeff Thorne's run.
And I gotta say that conversation that he had with Philip Kennedy Johnson, I think really helped.
Can I have the transcripts of that conversation?
I bet that
sounds like a banger.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, I think he helped PKJ, get into the minutia of John's personality to come to this moment, and it's been awesome.
I really like that arc, but to me, this might be the best single issue since maybe Blackest Night, which is a long time ago. Now it seems like yesterday, but it's going to be at least almost a decade, right? Since Blackest
Night was 2009 and 2010.
Oh, geez, even worse. Yeah, even longer. I'm getting old, damn it. But yeah, so it's probably the best single issue since Blackest Night. So kudos to everybody involved. Philip Kennedy Johnson, Montos, and the whole team. Keep up the amazing work. And that pretty much wraps it up for us this week. But as always, if you want to chat with me or Donnie on social media about Green Lantern or any of the nerdy things that we cover on this podcast network, you can. So, Donnie, where do they track you down?
You can find me on Twitter or TikTok as The Emerald Enthusiast. You can also find lots of Green Lantern product reviews on my YouTube channel. Once again, that's The Emerald Enthusiast. Let's talk comics. Let's talk collectibles. Let's talk Green Lantern.
And you can find me on Twitter at Adam_LeafsFan. We also have a Facebook group, which I will link in the description below. Click that. I will add you, and we can continue the conversation there. But until next time, remember that Green Lantern Kilowog is forever. From the first time he stands up against 3 Sinestro Corps Lanterns and kicks their ass and goes down in a blaze of glory to the last. So long, everybody.
So long, Poozas.